How you doing, guys? It's Eric from RuleTheWasteland.com. So they just released the new inflation numbers, and even their official number is pretty bad, 9.1%. And we know that that's not even close to being what the actual impact of price increases is to normal people. If we even used, I haven't done the calculations to see, but they're out there if you want to look. I think ShadowSats is still doing them and whatnot. But even if we just calculated inflation the way our own government used to, and they still use those old numbers and just compare them, but they haven't updated them a lot of times. If we still even calculated it the way we did back in the day, these would even be worse still. But it's going to be worse. I mean, 9.1% inflation. If that were legitimately what was happening, that would be bad. And what's actually happening is worse. So someone pointed out on Twitter that with 9.1% inflation, if that's even what it really is, that if you're not getting 12% returns on all your investments, your portfolios, your income, whatever, then the IRS is basically wiping out all your real gains with their 20 to 30% take, depending on what bracket you're in. So it's a bad state of affairs. And another interesting thing, and that's what the coming next part of the title is I've seen people point out that, or make the comment that this isn't real inflation because we're not seeing wage increases, and this is a supply side issue. So first of all, going back to, obviously there is no one real definition of inflation. It's just what people use all the time. But what it should be, to be the most descriptive and precise, is an increase in the supply of money and credit. That is happening. That is happening in a big way. We're absolutely seeing that. As I pointed out, I mean, something like 25 or 30% of all dollars in existence were created within the last 2 or so years. There is just no way around saying that is massive inflation, period. I don't care what you say. If you disagree with that, you're wrong. The next part of the situation, though, is prices. Like I mentioned before, prices don't have to automatically go up, at least especially right away, when you have such a big increase in the supply of money. Like I've said before, the Fed could create a $15 trillion coin, bury it in the woods, and there would be no price inflation, even though there is a price increase, even though there is actual inflation. So what will cause it? Obviously, we do have supply side issues happening right now, but I still think that the vast majority of these increases are predominantly related to inflation. And we've seen gas price increases and all this stuff happening before the war with Russia. It would continue to happen. Of course, things like the wheat supply and what's happening with eggs, those are going to cause some price increases. But we're not having massive shortages in the way that would account for this steady increase of prices in pretty much everything. So what's going to happen next, and I've explained this in a couple videos before, at least spread out. So what's going to cause the price increase, or I'm sorry, the wage increase, which will cause the more dollars chasing fewer goods, true melt-up spiral, is when the collapse starts to happen. Because like I said, the actual economic forces out there right now are depressionary. The economies are failing all around the globe. The inflation itself, however, is a currency issue predominantly. You can have both. You can have one or the other. You can have an economy that's doing well with a currency that's being mismanaged. You can have a currency that's being mismanaged in an economy or society that's very productive. So you're going to have problems either way, but they can be one or the other, or both, or neither. They don't necessarily have to go hand in hand. So most of these problems out there right now, we're talking about the supply side issues, stuff like that. The decline or stagnation of real wages over the past many decades or whatever. There's all sorts of stuff like that would cause a depression or a massive recession at the very least. The thing is that our currency system can't handle that. Because it's a debt-based fiat system, it literally requires a continual increase in debt to sustain itself, or it just instantly implodes into a massive spiral of debts being paid off / disappearing, defaulted on, that literally cause money to disappear, as I've explained before. So that's going to basically start happening as the economy weakens. We're seeing it kind of happen right now, and especially as we move into this, all these different effects from the stuff in Russia with the food and the fuel and all that stuff. So what's going to happen next is the depression will basically start. Sorry, my battery ran out. So we're going to see the contracting GDP and all that, but what we're also going to see is as the economy contracts, we're going to be unable, or at least unwilling, the government is and the Fed, to just let that process naturally play out, because it takes away literally their only weapon, their only action that they can even do, which is their monetary policy. If they just let the monetary system collapse in that way and spiral down and the money disappears, they won't be able to pay any sort of government transfer payments like Social Security, or not Social Security, like food stamps or anything like that. Any government benefits like Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, no police, no military, even people like congressmen and military budgets. That money has to come from somewhere. There would be no tax revenue. And so they would literally, they have two choices at that point. Either let the country devolve into Mogadishu overnight. And I guarantee you that's what would happen if you go into these like inner cities and you have, say, all of a sudden people aren't going to get their food stamps, they aren't going to get their benefits of any kind. You're going to tell military and police that they're not getting paid. Just how quickly do you think the country would instantly implode? So what are they going to do? They're going to make the money. And it's so weird to me that you hear people like, I think it's Harry Dent say, like, talking about this deflationary depression spiral that would occur, that is going to start to occur, and say they can't print enough money. They can print an infinite amount of money. They could literally come out tomorrow. It's digital. It's clicking on a keyboard. They could do direct asset. They can and will probably do direct asset purchases from the Fed. They could say now there's 20 trillion more dollars this year or whatever. Now there's 100 trillion more dollars, whatever. I just refuse to believe that they're going to stop paying welfare, food stamps, military. You know, if someone actually believes that, tell me how that process would go down. You really think that they would just let the money, just like in 2008, if they let all that collapse happen, all these things would just disappear. They literally were already back then, that was 14 years ago, talking about there would be blood and tanks in the streets and martial law if they just let that happen without doing these massive bailouts. And we're in a way, way more precarious position now than we were even back then, because nothing was fixed. Everything was just propped up. So I just can't even comprehend a way that they just let that play out, unless it just happens in a way that, like, there's a civil war at the exact moment or so. I don't know. But like I said, they literally become instantly powerless if they stop making money. And there would be like a revolution like we're seeing in Sri Lanka overnight, where people are storming palaces and houses of these people and dragging them out in the street and beating them to death and stuff like this. There's just no way I can fathom that the U.S. government and the Fed would let that happen. Literally their only weapon is to create money. And I think what all they've been doing with the raising of the rates now is reloading their gun. They're basically at 0% already. You can't lower rates effectively anymore. So they're reloading the gun. They know this collapse is going to happen anyway. So they're waiting and saying, making sure they do the right thing, or what's supposed to be the right thing, and what would be the right thing if they'd done it decades ago. And then so when there is this collapse, they can blame it on whatever, the COVID 18th variant, the monkey ass pox, or whatever they rolled out next, and then say, oh shit, we were on the right track, and then all these extraneous circumstances happened, the exigent circumstances, the aliens invaded, whatever, and so now we gotta reverse course, and that's the right thing to do now, even though we were doing the right thing then, and now we gotta make $50 trillion. So, there will absolutely be wage inflation. Because not increasing the amount of these benefits, of military pay, of welfare, of food stamps, is gonna be the same as not paying them out when inflation keeps going like this. Because if inflation's rising by what we know to be 15 to 20, maybe even more percent every year, if you're not increasing these benefits by at least that much, you're effectively getting rid of them anyway. We're seeing rents increases, so they're going to have to increase all this stuff, and they will do it. They're going to let some kind of tanking in the economy happen first to give them kind of a justification to make sure that there's that public desire, to get the mandate, so to speak, to be able to do this without it looking like their fault. But it's guaranteed. I just can't see it any other way. If you really think that there's any other way that goes down, how you would see them attempting to manage that depressionary deflation implosion some other way other than just printing money, let me know. But that literally just erases money, It erases the debt money system, which is the only thing that they have. That is their entire foundation of power. So that's what's going to happen. There's going to be some kind of crash. Might not be that severe or that long term, because they're going to just use it as an excuse to act, and then we'll see the wage increase. We'll see. I've said we're going to see different types of UBIs and payments. They're already talking about that and doing it in California with gas payments. We're going to see a lot more of that. So if they're already doing it now, you really don't think they're going to do more of that stuff when this gets worse and actually cause that wage inflation and that money chasing all these goods. It's going to happen. It's just a question of when and how deep and how long that initial crash is first. And I've said before as well that initial crash isn't a absolutely necessary part of the equation. They just need the quote unquote the mandate, the excuse. So if we see enough escalation in this stuff that's going on with Russia and NATO, then they might just do it right off the bat. Like if Russia set off a tactical nuke in Poland or something like that, then we might just see them switch gears right away because they could use that as an excuse. But barring something like that, I think we're going to see some kind of crash first. And I think they kind of want it because they're going to run in and buy up all the real goods, all the gold and silver, all the real estate, all the commodities, and then we're going to see a massive, massive commodity explosion in price and value because of that's going to be where people are trying to put all this money. As it becomes more and more worthless, they're going to start stuffing into real things. Let me know what you guys think, and if you see any other way out of this, I definitely would like to get someone on my channel here who thinks that it'll go the other way to really talk through it, because I'm 100% open to being convinced otherwise. My brain will literally cannot find a way for it to go any other way. So let me know what you guys think, and I'll talk to you later. Thanks for watching.